All right, y'all. Today we're going to talk about how to value land. How do you know how much a piece of land is worth, whether it's on market, whether somebody's looking to sell it to you, or maybe off market? How do you know how much it's worth? How do we price land? How do we find the value of it? And how does the land work? Like sometimes it's easy to look at things like homes and stuff in real estate because we've got comps in the area of 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses and certain shapes and sizes and all that stuff. But really, when we're starting to talk about land, what are we valuing in land, and how does it look, right? So first off, conceptually, I want you to think of land a little bit like Costco, right? So when you buy in bulk, the per unit price goes down, right? So if I was to buy let's just take paper plates, for instance. If I was to go to the grocery store, not Costco, and buy a 25 pack of paper plates, that might cost me $5 for 25 paper plates, right? Now, when I go to Costco, I could buy 1,000 paper plates, right? And I could buy 1,000 paper plates for like $15. So my price per plate goes way down. Now I spent a little bit more, right? I spent 3 times as much, but I got way more paper plates, right? So my price per plate went way down. So land is very similar, and I think this is one of the things where people get mistaken about land, especially landowners who are looking to sell their land. I see this a lot. I will give them an offer for a larger piece of property, and they think that because their buddy down the road sold their 1 acre for 100,000, and they have 10 of those, that their property should be worth 1 million. And it's just not how land works. Once we start buying, there's really price breaks kind of along the way. So 1 to 2 acres sells for quite a bit per acre. Even when you get below 1 acre, you can get quite a bit of money per acre. Now, once you get 2 to 5 acres, you do start seeing a bit of a decrease in pricing, and I'll show you that when we get into the land portal. I'm going to pull up a county. We can kind of see the price per acre drop as we get higher and higher acreages. And then obviously once we get like 5 to 7, there's probably another drop, and then 7 to 10, there's another drop, and then it starts getting bigger, 10 to 15, 15 to 20. And then once you get to 20 acres, it's about every 10 acres until you get to 50, and then really 50 to 100 acres is a lot of times around the same price per acre, but it can vary. So that's kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about buying in bulk. When you buy a large piece of property, and this is really where like subdividing works really well, is where you can buy, a large piece of land, subdivide it off into smaller parcels, sell those units for more price per acre. So we're not talking about that today. We're not going to get too deep into the woods about subdividing, but I do really want to talk about how to value land. So I'm going to jump over to the computer. I'm going to pull up a parcel, and we're going to go value it, right? We're going to go see how much this land is worth. I'm going to do a quick comp on it, and I'll show you how we value land specifically. So, all right, here we go, y'all. So the first thing, let's just say I was cruising the Zillows or the Redfins of the world, and I found this property, right? So this is in the county that I live in. So I'm familiar kind of with price per acre in this area. So this is a nice piece of property here. We got 8.38 acres for $775,000 here on Horn Springs Road. First off, Horn Springs Road, super nice road. Beautiful homes out there, like high-end luxury style homes. So it's really sought after. It's a very sought after area. But let's kind of dive in and let's find out what this thing is worth, right? So we're going to actually start in Land Portal. So I know I have one open, but I want to open a second one because really what I want to do, I want to start kind of at a more of a 10,000 foot view of the county. And a lot of times what I'll do is exactly what I'll do is I will actually start in this market research tab in Land Portal. And I know I'm in Wilson County. So that's the county that I want to look at just in general pricing. So because I know that I don't need to do a heat map or anything where I'm searching, I'm just going to type in right over here. I'm going to type in Wilson County, Tennessee. That's going to pull up, and I'm going to go search market data. And this is really going to pull up a ton of data for me, just kind of like general stuff. So this will start with like counts of sales in the area for Wilson County over the last, goes all the way out to 5 years. Obviously, I can get home data and land. So I'm obviously just on specifically land data. I can get parcel count, sell-through rate, absorption rate, month supply, median prices, price per acre, and days on market. Tons of information. We're not going to get into too much of this. What we are going to do is start with price per acre. So we can kind of see how much things are selling for. And this is kind of what I was talking about when you buy bulk, how the price per acre goes down. And when you buy just single units, 0 to 1 or 1 to 2 acres, we can call those single units, how much more expensive they are. So just to get enough data over here, we'll go, out 1 to 2 years. Prices of land hasn't changed too much. Maybe we're seeing a 1 to 3% increase in price year over year in the last few years. There was a time there where it went bonkers. And so these are kind of like reset years, the last couple of years. Obviously during COVID, we saw pricing shooting up wildly. So we can kind of see here, obviously 0 to 1 acres on average is selling for $319,000 to $330,000 per acre, which is wild, right? 1 to 2 acres is selling for $125,000 per acre. You want to have a tendency to jump down here. Well, I can look in the last 90 days. It's probably just because there's not a lot of data. If I click on this, we're only seeing 3 data points on here. So, and it tells you where it's from. So we got Redfin, and we also have a land portal is where it's pulling the links from. So that's good to know. But also the idea here is that you can see as the acreage goes up. So 2 to 5 acres now we're in that $60,000 to $70,000 price per acre, and 5 to 10 acres we're in that $40,000 to almost $50,000 price per acre, and then 10 to 20, we're in that $30,000 price per acre range, 20 to 50 at 20,000, so on and so forth, right? So the more acreage I buy, the less per acre it is. So we know that the subject property here is going to be, 8.38 acres, which is great. So the question really starts to become, where does that fall here? So it falls in this kind of 40 to, close to 50 almost. So we'll just, we'll cut it in the middle. We'll say $43,000 per acre on average in the county. So we've got how many acres was this? 8.38 times, and we'll go 43,500 an acre. So by the calculations in here for the just general, now we haven't looked at details or anything like this, just the general price per acre, kind of finding this, small price here of $43,000 per acre, we're at $364,000 for the value of this property, just in general on average. Now, this isn't taking into account, any of the details about this property. We haven't looked into any of the details, but right away, you would maybe assume hey, this is a little bit overpriced, right? Which is totally reasonable to think because we're just looking at one little factor here, which is the price per acre. We're not talking about location or anything like that, specific location. Now, obviously, we need to be kind of doing an apples to apples research here on a piece of land. So one of the things I would take a look at is just kind of the physical attributes, right? How wooded is it? Well, it's not very wooded. Do we have road frontage? We do. Right away, I can start seeing things that I really like. So right away, we've got road frontage. We're pretty cleared. So I want to be doing comps with stuff in that area. Now I have pulled this one up on Land Portal, so I found it here, which is great. And this is really I can start diving deep into some details on this property and seeing what's going on here. So right away, what I would do is I would qualify it. So I would go, okay, is this even something I want to look at to buy? I would first look at access. Okay, right away I go, okay, I have road access right here on Orange Springs Road. And I might even have some sort of, looks like, at least some cars or some side-by-sides have been driving here. It looks like I might even have a driveway right here, which is great. So I have good access. It looks like they've kind of cut it down so I can drive all the way into this property. Super nice, right? We have good access. It's not brush and trees and stuff in my way. I've got a way to get on this property. If I have four-wheel drive, it's probably not even an issue. The next thing I want to look at is my wetlands. Is there any FEMA or wetlands on this property? And it will affect my buildability. So first off, I look at my FEMA. Okay, I've got no FEMA flood zone in the area, so that's good. And then I want to look at wetlands. Okay, so we do have this little, what could be a stream or just water runoff wetland area here. This would be something that I would have to, just call the county and confirm, hey, what am I looking at here? Do I need to put a culvert over this to get, over this legally so I can build back here? Because obviously this is probably where I'd want to build. Is it a dry creek bed? Is it, what kind of wetlands is it? Is this federally protected wetlands or is this just water runoff? So I would want to call the county and just get some confirmation here. This stuff isn't that big of a deal. A lot of times it's not even an issue, but just because it's there, I'd want to get confirmation. Now I do also see that I have a pond here that's not showing up on my wetlands or water features. So it might be a situation where this is like a man-made pond or made recently, but there is a pond on here. So we do have a water feature, which is generally makes things a little bit more expensive as far as hey,
It's kind of nice. We got a pond. The other thing to start looking at here is what's in the area. Like, come on, look at this house. We've got a mansion right here, right next to us. So stuff like this is obviously going to inherently drive up the price of this land, right? Because this is now super desirable. And you can even see in the picture, there's a new house that was built here. You can see all these. This is new build. Anytime you see this amount of dirt around a property, this is all new build. So you can see this is all going in, new construction, new construction. So all this is like, you're going to start seeing really nice homes in the area. They're large homes and they're estates. These are estate style homes. You're still going to see lots of pools. We do have a couple neighborhoods, but they're all very nice. The other thing we can do, we can actually go out to the road and take a look at it. So this is nice. A cool feature in Land Portals, we got the Google Street View. So I can drop my little guy right here and I can see what I'm looking at. Okay, cool. So we know I can see I got a culvert. I got a little driveway going on my property. So this is really good. I can kind of see my little access road that goes all the way back here. You can see what's going on with the neighbors, right? We got a little barn here in the front, little ranch style house. We can even probably drive our little Google card down the road here and see our neighbor's McMansion. Let's see, can you see it from the road? Is it back there or is it up on that hill? Let's see. It's not that house. Oh, that's a nice house. I think it's back there. I don't think we're actually going to get a chance to see it, but it's nice because you can kind of drive your Google car down the road and just kind of confirm what's going on in the area. You can kind of see, the neighbor's situation, what they have going on. Oh, maybe we can see it. Let's take a look here. Oh, set up over that hill. So we got a McMansion back there. Obviously, very nice gated entrance. Looks like a park. All right, so just confirming, you can also look here and you can confirm utilities. Obviously, we have electric. There's probably water here with all these big houses. I'm assuming they're not on well out here. So we have water, we have electric. We can probably see a lot of the utilities. Looks like we maybe have gas with the little orange flag on the thing here. So you can kind of confirm utilities, which is always going to affect price as well. Okay, so number one, road access. Number two, we're not wet. Number three, is it flat? So we're going to go take a look at that. I've clicked on something here. Okay. I like to look at the buildability, which is a little filter over here. This is just going to show me how much or what percentage of my land is completely flat. And it tells me the percentage, 87.97%. And you can see, there it is. All that land there that's yellow, totally buildable, totally flat. It's great. So that's what we want to see. And obviously I can see from the road that this wasn't super sloped, right, driving in. So it's not counting that as buildable, mostly because it's probably too thin to build there, but we've got lots of flat land here. So we're flat, we got road frontage, we're not wet. We can definitely build on this property. It's definitely a residential style property that I would definitely be interested in. Now, how much is it? The Land Portal does give us kind of a retail estimate it uses kind of like a quick comping in the area. And it'll kind of give me a quick estimate. So you can see that it's even a little bit higher than kind of what we were just doing for general price per acre. So it's saying that it's worth about 68,000. We'll call it 69,000 an acre, around 580K total for retail on this one. So this would still indicate that they are a little bit overpriced for the area, right? The other thing we can do here, and this is a really cool feature, is we can run an AI comp report. Now, this is going to take more things into account. It's going to take how much road frontage you have, what your slope percentage is, any sort of wetlands, and in a closer look at the area, in the same acreage range. It's going to take distance into account. It's a really cool report. I'll pull this real quick and see. And a lot of times this will come back way different than what the TLP says because it takes more things into account. So it's going to be a little bit more accurate. It takes a little bit of time to get it. But once it comes in, here it is. All right. So it takes into account all this information here. Location, property details, the use code, the zoning, the type of the acreage, the wetlands coverage, the FEMA coverage, the accessibility, the amount of road frontage, the slope estimation, all that stuff. Okay. This one is giving it a lower valuation. So this is interesting that it's kind of giving it closer to like what we saw back in the area that was like our price per acre. So it's saying it's worth $372,000. So once again, none of these are going to be perfect. These are all just kind of gathering information because really at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, it's what will the market bear? So We kind of have the AI kind of tools that have done a little bit of the work for us. We've got one that says it's worth, this one says it's worth 372. The land portal says it's worth 560 or 570 or whatever it was. Now let's go see what the market will bear in this area, right? Because at the end of the day, it's worth what somebody will pay. So because this is on market, you can get some information from Zillow, which is great. You can see how it's doing. You can see how many views and how many saves you're getting. So we're at 147 views and 4 saves in the last 8 days. That's not bad. I do want to look at, what do they have this listed at price per acre? So we can just run that real quick. 775 divided by 8.38. So they have it listed for $92,000 per acre, which I do think is high for this area. But once again, once you know an area, you are on Horn Springs Road. Very fancy area. We're talking luxury estate type stuff. So high demand. I do think they're overpriced a little bit, but I don't think they're quite as overpriced as one would tend to think, because we're not like, I wouldn't consider this rural area, although it's rural. I would consider this more like luxury estate area. So I'm going to come back to this here, and let's look at some comps in here. So this property is right here, right off Coles Ferry Pike. Horn Springs kind of connects to Coles Ferry Pike right off of 70. So it's a really kind of up and coming area in Wilson County. Well, it's just more luxury type stuff. What I do want to look at is I'm going to look at some sold comps. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to look at stuff that's sold. And we'll see what things are selling for in this area, price per acre wise, right? So keep in mind, we do kind of want to start finding some properties that are a little bit like ours. So this looks like these are all on Horn Springs Road, which is great. And it looks like there's been some sort of subdivision going on. Now, these aren't ideal properties. These are long and skinny. These are kind of what we refer to as spaghetti string lots, right? They're very skinny and maybe wide at the back. Now, ours isn't like this. Ours is what would be considered a flag-shaped lot. But you can see there's 7 of those units here. Let's take a look at this one. We do have a comp right here on Horn Springs Road. Oh, this one's sold. So this is actually interesting because we actually have the sold comp for this one at 335, but only at 6.6 acres. So this 6.6 acres, 335, could be some sort of flip divided by 6.6. So they paid $50,000 an acre for this, which I actually think is probably closer in this 6 acre range, probably closer to what is probably retail. I do think we're probably in that like 50 to, I would even venture to say up to $60,000, depending on like utilities and other things. Obviously, we have a pond here; it's flat, it's buildable. I'd probably even venture up to around $60K an acre for something like this because it is so nice. These are going to be all these subdivides. So this is a subdivision, just like what we were talking about. Somebody bought a bunch of properties and then subdivided them up. Looks like they've got 2 left here. Let's take a look because I think we can see these are them. I think all these little ones here are these pricing. Let's see. We also have this one here, 5.3. This one sold back in 2024. We can kind of dive into the data on this one too. This one looks like it sold for quite a deal, 5.3 acres. So this is sold for 36,000 an acre back 2 years ago. This would probably sell for around, if it's raw acreage and wooded. Now we don't have any pictures really, which is a bummer. Probably would sell for around 45 today. Let's see here. So it does say lot 17, which makes me think it's part of a subdivision. Anytime you see that, maybe part of a subdivision. Because obviously, why would you number the lots otherwise? Great building lot, newly resurveyed, perk approved. Okay. So this was just a quick survey, subdivide type situation. Builder perked. Okay. Plat, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So this one sold for around 36. I think, because it's probably wooded and not a ton of accessibility, probably a lot of work that needs to be done. This would probably sell for around 45 today, 2 years later. All right. So I do think that this one here on Horn Springs, the one that's listed for sale currently, the 8 acre parcel, is probably worth, I would probably venture to say it's going to sell for around $60,000. So I think they are a little bit overpriced. 8.38 acres times my idea is that it probably sells for around 500,000. So that would be, if you keep an eye on this one and it sells for, around that, I think that's probably top dollar for this would be around that. I don't see a lot of properties selling for much more than that. You can actually see this one here has been on the market for 3 months. You can see how this is doing. So here's an 8.6, obviously is listed for a little bit of a lower price. They price cut it recently. It's in the same area, but not on the same road. But once again, you do see some luxury estates here. And you can kind of see here, let's just take a look. It's not getting great views or saves. So I do think this one, is probably a little bit overpriced as well. All right, looks like I had the perk issue, but looks like it's completed. But if you want 4 bedrooms, so they have this one listed for $649. Divide that by 8.6. It was for $75,000. Like, once again, I do think this is probably going to sell for that somewhere between 55 and 60K an acre. So I think that's kind of the going rate. I do think these are a little bit overpriced, but that is just kind of how I would price these properties, looking at them in that sort of light. So
yeah, so I hope that helps you kind of take a look at land and how to price land and what that looks like as far as like using all the tools, right? So Land Portal is obviously very helpful when it comes to pricing those things out as far as giving you a bunch of data, how to look at the land, the road frontage, the slope, all those things, getting price per acre in general in an area. And then obviously using like sold comps, like using a Redfin, using a Zillow, using some of MLS search to go in and look at what's sold. Because at the end of the day, land is really worth what somebody will pay for it. Just like anything else, it's based on what somebody will pay. Like if one of these does happen to sell for $700,000, well, it was worth that because somebody paid it, right? At the end of the day, you can argue all you want about it not being worth that amount, but if somebody's willing to pay it, that's how much it's worth. And that's just how you have to value land. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions on how I value land, or if you have maybe land that you'd like for me to value or whatever that, make a comment down below. It's part of what I do in my coaching program. Also, link for Land Portal down below as well. It's amazing. It's a great software if you're getting into land or you want to learn about land. There's a university inside of there as well. Link in the description for Land Portal. Go check it out. You get a 7-day free trial. It's amazing. Go try it out. Have a great rest of your day, y'all. Talk to you soon.